Hi, folks, and welcome to a Techthusiasm Saturday afternoon home theater hangout. Put this one up, not quite last minute last night, but still, I kind of like the weekend, more intimate types of hangouts. So as you're coming in, please hit the like button. Sound off in the comments. Let me know. Let me know who's there, where you're from, what do you got going on this Saturday. Some shout outs. Hey, Julius, super channel regular there. I'm wondering if maybe I should have went a little later today at 1 o'clock, but we'll see. I do plan to get back to some more of the more detailed Wednesday streams as well. We're still settling in a little bit after vacation, actually settling into some, in some ways, unfortunate realities. I'll talk about that here as well. But so we'll be online here for the next little bit. I've got some updates, talk about some content that I'm working on, some things that I've been using on in the theater and my spaces, kind of some conclusions that I've been coming to. I made 4 videos this morning, so I ran out of content this past week after everything that I had done prior to vacation and had all scheduled, and needed to kind of catch up, get back on the content train. So talk a little bit about that. Your questions, if you have any topics of discussion for this afternoon, you have any specific tech, home theater, hi-fi questions and all of that, let me know. Another shout out. Hey, Akash, trying to finish up school real quick here. Yep. And we'll be seeing you soon, before too long. So pretty cool. So again, hit the like on your way in, please. Pop a comment. Let me know who's there. What's going on? What's going on in your home theaters? What have you been up to? And we'll jump into a few things. So Jerry Hahn, welcome. Have you had a chance to try Halo T? I presume that means Halo Touch. I do have the Halo non-touch still here. Been using that primarily in the living room. Yeah, Halo Touch yet. So I have been in touch with Dan, no pun intended. The touches they've been under delay, I think now, delay a couple of times, and they're not available yet. So the touches will be coming in. Actually, I don't know. Hopefully in Q2, we'll see them. I was close to just kind of making my commitment to getting the non-touches. I think for me, the non-touch will be fine, particularly if with a couple of potential upgrades and additions to the system. In some ways, the custom buttons and custom features of the Halo Touch, like I used on my Neo, the most useful elements of the touch that I had found had to do with being able to set up custom buttons for custom programming and Control 4. And I was using some of those things for projector lens memory settings in the theater. And I was using those things to like call up macros for in the living room. For example, I have a macro to like pull up the LG game bar in order to check frame rates in game settings when I'm playing. Sets a timer and then it dismisses it after a few seconds. But I think I can get away with all of that. One, if I do end up finding my way into Illumigen here soon, that negates the need for a whole bunch of custom mode programming in the theater around the projector and installation modes. And then in the living room, still like with the non-touch, you still have 3 buttons, 3 completely customizable buttons. Now they have said, or there was some rumors from some folks that the dot, double dot, triple dot buttons on the non-touch are supposed to be programmable such that they will let you pull up like a pop-up menu and multi-select there. We still haven't seen that. Come yet. So, but if it does come, they make the touch and even I think to me even like a harder sell. I am running version 2.1.2 of the software. If you do have a Halo Touch, you're having any trouble with it or whatever, make sure hopefully that it's updating. You should be on 1.2. I think I've noticed a little improvement with the battery life. It lasts a little bit longer, at least on the order of three or so days. but we don't put it under a lot of use as well. We pretty much only really use the TV in the evenings, and that's usually just me. So all that to say, I was real close talking with Dan this week to say, like, you know what, just bring me another touch, and let me buy these and be done with it, and then, or not non-touch, get these mixed up. Bring me a second one. Let me put it in both rooms. Let me completely deinstall these Neos. And then still though, when the touch, even if I do that, even if I buy the non-touches, when the touch comes in, I will, through Dan, I will get a hold of one and get a demo, and I will be able to review it and compare. And we'll see if I decide to buy the non-touches and I get my hands on a touch, if I feel any buyer's remorse. Another shout out, Bodie McBoatface. How's it going? I think I just noticed you followed on Instagram as well. Been trying to use Instagram a little bit more for a mix of things. I haven't really been much of an Instagram user, but I'm finding my way to it. I think it's a little more fun to post there pictures and stuff than on Facebook. And my Instagram is a little more Techthusiasm and a little less personal. But I've also kind of been engaging on a few other things on Instagram as well. So one thing's, I guess, if you see me a little down, it's been a somber week. We've got a couple of health challenges going on in the family. So if anybody out there is willing to like send a prayer or send some positive mental energy over, both of my parents we've been going through some family health concerns. We've got an oncology appointment coming up on Tuesday. So that's really, this last week has really kind of been tempering my thoughts about hobbies and home theater and all that stuff a little bit, with a bit of a somber note. Just, thinking about life and mortality and all that stuff. So if I seem a little down today, or if I seem a little down in any of the videos that I've made coming up here in the next few weeks, cats fighting over there, I guess you'll know why. So, please send any positive energy. And on a PSA note, if you're aging up, or you think you've got some health concerns, man, go get stuff checked out. Get checked out early. I'm only sitting here, and I know Randy was talking about this, Cheap Audio Man, on some of his recent streams. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I think he recently had a health scare and was in for some tests, specifically like colonoscopy and other things. So yeah, I'm only 46, but a colonoscopy 10 some years ago saved my life. I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for that. So took out some precancerous polyps that were pretty large and would have grown to be a trouble. But yeah, and my mom, she had melanoma, cancerous melanoma tumor removed about 10 years ago. They took out some lymph nodes. At the time, there was no spread. She didn't even have to do chemo. But now it looks like maybe something could be afoot. So she's been scanned, and we got some appointments next week. And my family, they beat a lot of stuff. I hope that's a hopeful for me. I want to live like my grandparents did, upper 80s, whatever, early 90s and that. But my dad's beat strokes. He's beat prostate cancer, and so on. But yeah, so it has me really thinking. I've always talked on the channel with an air towards like being pragmatic in this hobby, and thinking about kind of minimalism a bit in a way. It's even got me thinking more about that. I'll talk a little bit about more what I'm thinking for the system and stuff kind of coming up. So a somber tone. I am going to get my afternoon coffee here. I was hoping to have this made before we started. Anybody else out there a French presser? Everybody else in my household hates coffee, so I just do it like one cup at a time, and I'll show it off. I saw somebody bought one. The merch is up there. Oh, there it is, the Techthusiasm mug, the official Techthusiasm mug. I saw a purchase come in for one. Probably was my dad. A couple comments. Bodie saying, when you get a chance, I was up last night going through your videos and your home theater gamer. If I waste time trying to find your discussion on the cheapest way to get into Kaleidescape. I think that was buried in the one live stream that we did. I think where we were talking about physical media and ripping versus K. And I did do an excerpt If you look in the playlist, I have a live stream playlist, and in that playlist, I put all the live streams themselves, and any of the excerpts that I've taken. I've actually stopped doing live stream excerpts. I'm looking for this one now. I've actually kind of stopped doing takeaways from the live streams. It takes a little bit more time. In some ways, it's good to, I think, pull out a couple of useful things, but on the other hand, I don't know, it's kind of also like kind of cheap content in a way. But so if I feel there's like a subset of a live that's really, really useful, I'll take that out. Yeah, here it is. Buying Kaleidescape hardware in the used market. Let's see if I can put here, share, copy to clipboard, and I will put it right here in the comments for you there. So that's a link to that specific video for Bodie. I will say, it looks like there's been a couple Kaleidescape sales recently. I've linked in the channel community tab, Audio Advice. I've got the affiliate relationship, full disclosure. If you buy a Kaleidescape from them, I will get a pretty nice kickback, actually, which helps the channel and benefits the channel, no additional cost to you. But right now, they've got them on sale, like straight up on the Audio Advice webpage. I think there's some pretty decent reductions on the Kaleidescape stuff, and they've got a couple Strato Terra bundles. Maybe call them, push on them a little bit more. Tell them Techthusiasm sent you, give them the referral code and all that stuff. And maybe they'll do even better, over the phone. But otherwise, your best bet for Kaleidescape is to get in cheaper is really the used market, Kscape Owners Forum. There are often systems available there. Still a pretty decent flow of like Strato S's. If you don't mind the slower downloads, I think that's a great way to go. It takes 45 minutes on a fast internet connection to download a 4K movie on a Strato S, but you've got an all-in-one solution, and I think those are being listed, under 5K now. So that's how I entered the Kaleidescape system. I mean, quite honestly, I bought a used original Strato 6 terabyte, the prior larger one before the S came out. Bought it on eBay, paid $2,300 for it. I don't even know what year that was, probably 5 or 6 years ago now. And then I kind of flipped it and upgraded from there. Because of the price increases, I can say every piece of Kaleidescape gear that I bought, I've sold. I think I sold at a profit because the stuff is harder to find, and the prices and all that have gone up. So Jerry Hunt says, seeking perfection in home theater helps compensate for the imperfection and ravages of real life. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an escape. That's the fun thing about this hobby, right? Is it's escapism at its finest. Get lost in a great story. Get lost in a great audio video experience. So it definitely serves a purpose there. And Jerry asking about that touch, literally waiting for me to review the Halo touch before getting either one. I appreciate that. I really strive to be pretty honest and pragmatic. And when I like stuff, I like it. And when I think things could be improved, I try to say that. I try not to be a nitpicker. I try to talk about, how things could be better from the perspective of being an engineer that understands hardware, designs hardware and software, and all of that. So hopefully something that kind of sets me apart. So I guess what's been going on? Well, I put the video up yesterday. It kind of died, but I think this thing is too cool just not to mention. This is the air duster. So I had the PC sitting upstairs here for a while and then came back from vacation, really took a hard look at it and was considering options for the living room and all that. And saw all the cat litter dust inside. So these freaking cats, man, they sit on the PC, which I stupidly put under the window, and they look out the window because my daughter takes them outside and takes them for walks. Yeah, she takes our cats for walks. They love going outside. So when one of them goes out, the other ones jump on the computer and they're sitting there at the windowsill. So all that litter dust and stuff is falling off of their falling off their feet. So I had to clean that computer out and get it downstairs. And I went looking for something. And I think this thing's pretty sweet. So the review stands. The review video is up from yesterday. And the only thing that I would say to improve this thing is this button is in a really bad spot. It's basically the power button. It's the only button on the thing, but you turn it on and then you hold it and you tap a couple more times. I won't do it because it's really loud. But then as I was using it, I kept like hitting the button. I turn it off like mid. So they should have put that button like down here or somewhere else. But yeah, I'm going to clean out the rack. I think Julius had mentioned about like, why can I clean out my like refrigerator, condenser coils and stuff. I actually need to do that. So this thing's pretty cool. I put an Amazon affiliate link to buy it. Normally it was $100. They had it on sale for $49.99 and then a $12 coupon. So like $40 out the door ish with tax. Pretty cool. USB-C charging. And yeah, so that was fun. And then I was trying to think what to do with the content. So, how do you make a cleaning something with a blower interesting? So I had the video B-roll when I was blowing the keyboards out and blowing the PC and stuff out, and figured, well, I might as well use that. So I kind of quieted the audio down and I put all those cleaning videos up as ASMR videos this morning. So if you saw Deluge, if you noticed the deluge of videos, I think I put up 3 shorts and 2 full size normal videos of me just cleaning stuff with the thing. I'm curious if those go. If you don't like them, just ignore them. They're really not something to watch, but I thought that might be a way to kind of grab a little bit of exposure to the channel. It's funny that the best performing video on the channel, almost 200,000 views, is me peeling the plastic film off of that LG television. Of course, I made like 4 cents, 4 cents of revenue off that video. The thought that like YouTube Shorts was going to take over YouTube content creation monetization was sorely overrated. Shorts pay like almost nothing, I guess, unless you're a Kardashian or something. But anyway, so I'm like, well, why not try to get some more legs out of having recorded that stuff? And so there they went up this morning. I'll be curious if those just absolutely die or they do something. So more shout outs, Rob, James, hello. And again, you're coming in, give me a shout out. Let me know who's there, where you're from, what are you doing in your home theater, hi-fi systems lately. And if you have any questions, fire them out as well. We will, I'll hit those as they come. So talking about the systems, at the beginning of the year, I'd put up the videos thinking about the living room. We'll do this little boop, 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 boop shift. We've got the whole bump out kind of set up there. And I was talking about, putting a cabinet over down to the left of the TV, bringing up the Anthem and the amplifiers and stuff. The camera's having a hard time between the focus modes. Bringing that stuff up to the living room, rebuilding the PC into a console style and all that stuff. And after seeing how dusty and dirty things got up here and realizing like just how clean my downstairs storage room is, like, man, I was really thinking twice about bringing more gear up here. I think I'm really better off. Maybe this is a lesson for everybody as well. And if you can put your gear in a closet, you can put it in more of a closed door, like cleaner environment, rather than just having it out in the open where regular house dust and pet dust and other things, it's gonna get affected by that stuff. I think I'm changing my preference over the virtues or the merits of having the equipment upstairs. I don't think outweighs having it just cleanly put away in a room that nobody goes into, no animals go into, and it stays clean. And I have to admit too that I've been debating this decision a little bit more, kind of part and parcel of the fact that I'd really kind of like to buy the Lumigen and get the video processor. That's not going to be a cheap endeavor. And so, maybe some of the money that I was thinking to put into here can get saved and reallocated a little bit. I was looking at a salamander cabinet that was going to be $1,100 or so. I would have needed another power protection conditioner or Furman. That's another several $100. it would have added cost to my system for things that I don't really need. And so maybe there's a lesson there as well, dig into in some future content is, spending money wisely, I think boils down in some cases to not buying redundant things and kind of really focusing. That said, even if I do opt to keep the gear downstairs, I'm thinking at some point I would like to have the handyman rip this wall down. You can kind of see, let me see if I can get the right up here, this section of the upper wall, it angles forward. That's because if you've seen some of the older original content on the channel, the first incarnation of our living room, there were speakers up there, left, right, and center were spread across this section of the bump out. And I took all that stuff out. It didn't really work as well as was kind of recommended to me. And now the speakers, of course, are down flanking the TV. I think that all works a lot better. And now we've got like this bump out kind of like looming over us as we sit in the living room. And so I think it's still in my interest to have the drywall taken down, cut that bump out so that it's vertical, give me the ability to take these speaker channels and make them go a little higher so we can fit some taller speakers for review, or for ownership in the long run, like some Per Listens or maybe some Focal Utopias in there. I don't have enough height before it hits the angled section to hold both like a Utopia and the Triad subwoofer that's in there. And then it would give me the ability to rewire and kind of do some other improvements and stuff behind there. So that part of the project, I think, is still open for consideration. But part and parcel with that, I think the gear is going to stay downstairs. And instead of buying a redundant cabinet, instead of buying a redundant power supply, line conditioner, protection, and stuff like that, that money can get reallocated. So I'll say pretty clearly to everybody out there, if you do some things, I greatly appreciate it. Any monetary support that you provide to the channel, all of it, memberships, super thanks, super chats, use the affiliate links when you shop on Amazon or Audio Advice, straight up donations, any of the stuff down below, that money is all going into the channel. And pretty much right now, I'm trying to fund the Lumigen. So if current donations and revenue shares and all of that stuff that comes in, pretty much going, I think, into the Lumigen fund at the moment. I have the purchase kind of set up right now. It's just a matter of making the go ahead with it. And so I was looking at the 40, I'm going to forget the number now, the 4220. Yeah, 4240. The smallest one. So that I would continue connecting my sources through the Anthem, switch them there into the Lumigen to the projector. That way I can do more devices. There's been some requests in the comments to maybe get a shield, cover some shield. So I don't mind maybe buying a couple of sources or buying them for a short period of time to review or make some content around them. But to me, I think my system is better served with the cheaper Lumigen, not the 5000 series, and not worrying about the audio reclock features and all that stuff. But so anyway, I'm working on that. And if you do opt to do anything to support the channel, that's kind of where the pooling revenue is going right now. Now, they did just announce the Mad VR Mark II. That thing's looking pretty sick. But it's also got a pretty hefty price tag with it as well. It'll be interesting to see how things develop. I think like both in the ultra premium space now in our hobby, audio and video is really, really moving towards like super advanced and detailed processing, like video processing. And then you got Trinoff and Dirac with all these like super audio compensation algorithms. So it's interesting the way like programming and science, basically have kind of come together in these new devices. I don't think that direction is going to change. So it'll be interesting to see those developments there. But I'm still hoping, through some contacts, some collaborations and all that, to be able to at least be able to demo and review a Mad VR. Even if for the long term, I think my needs could probably be served fine with the Lumagen. And I've been joking in the comments about the fact that like the way things have gone with prices and new releases and whatever, like that small Lumagen is basically like it's a budget play, which I don't think anybody would have said in the past. A couple of comments. Soup, new member or a new member of the channel community. I saw your comments. Have been replying to them. I had the G2 on my list last year, and he went with an S95C. Yeah, all good televisions. I don't think so many good choices. I don't think you can go wrong with a lot of those. It just depends on what features you want, sizes and form factors, things like that. So Julie's asking, have you looked any more at headphones? No, I've still got the Focal Bathos purchase kind of sitting there as well. I go back and forth on it because like I'll go a few days or whatever without using my earbuds very much, and then I'll spend a day, work at home, or spend more time with the earbuds in my ears and be like, oh, these things are still bugging me. I don't think they're bugging me as much as they were, because I had almost really 2 weeks of relief with the vacation. I don't think I had earbuds in my ears at all over the bulk of that vacation, save for the flights. The flight down to Florida and the flight back was the only time. So I think some of the mounting irritation that I was feeling has subsided a little bit, or kind of reset itself since I've been back. But in the week and a half or whatever it's been since we've been back, I can feel it mounting again. So I think I need to, there's a few things that I just need to do. I probably just need to pull the trigger on the Focals, and I think that'll be interesting channel content as well. And then the other thing that I need to spend the money on and finalize, as well as buy my tickets for Audio Advice Live. So planning to go and partake in those festivities as a along with a handful of others as like a YouTube social media attendee. So pretty cool there. So talking about gear changes in this living room. So after I cleaned everything out, I got this computer all set. I did leave it back downstairs. I reinstalled it back where it was, up on top of the rack, and which kind of puts me back to one of the frustration points that I've had, which is actually kind of gaming on the computer and the accessibility of it and the failure mode of controllers. Right, controllers working. So if I flip this over here again, we play games predominantly in the living room. We sit on that couch right there, and I'm gonna pull this down a little bit. So right under the floor, about right here, is where my AV rack is, downstairs in the storage room in the basement. And yeah, we got a bunch of stuff set up here. That gray thing is my son's fort building kit. And then pretty cool tech thing, actually. I'll mention this, but these little buttons down here, these are cat pet learning buttons. So you tap them and then they say outside or eat or all done or play or whatever. So yes, my daughter, the future animal whisperer, veterinarian, nutrition expert for pets, is training our cats to press buttons and communicate with her. So pretty wild. The one cat actually is taking to it, and he finds his way to the outside button quite a bit. So, but when we sit on this couch, we play a video game. We're facing away, right, first of all, from where the reception of the controllers is, and I've got the PC still set up down there. I've got the USB wireless adapter for Windows to use the Xbox controllers on the PC, and we play 4-player games together as a family. We play Overcooked, we play Moving Out, Heave Ho, goofy fun games and stuff like that. The Xbox Series controllers just randomly and constantly disconnect middle of a game, and one of the many failure modes of PC is like controllers disconnecting on PC is a bigger pain than it is on a console for whatever reason. If a controller disconnects, it comes back, negotiating, communicating with the console, and interfacing that control to the game. It's more native and it works more cleanly. But when on the PC, you're playing a game on Steam and you're in the game and the controller disconnects, and then maybe if it reconnects, it reconnects to the computer, but it doesn't like get oh, excuse me, drinking too much. It doesn't get re-registered by the game. And that's such a pain because now we got to quit the game, perhaps relaunch Steam, in some cases even reboot the computer. The foils and pains and frustrations of PC gaming. But like unanimously, we have 2 Series 2 Elite controllers, and we have a couple of just regular newer style Series X controllers. And it's always the non-elites that disconnect. So I took the plunge in order to fully experiment here, and I was debating what to get, because they have the Xbox Elites in the design lab now, and it's like, oh, like maybe like my son or my daughter would like to configure their own controller and stuff. But man, if you go to the Xbox design lab and you configure a Series 2 Elite with custom colors, and then you add all the stuff, that's like a very expensive way to buy a controller. And the reality is, like, I use the Elite features for the most part. My son will use the Elite features for the most part. My daughter and my wife never. Like, they don't even want the paddles on the controller. So I think it's actually, I kind of questioned this at first when Microsoft released this, but now I think understand some of the value benefit of it. That's the sticker. When I was opening this thing up, I lost track of the sticker. It's stuck on there. But they released this thing. It's called, what's over here? It's called the Core. And so it's an Elite controller. You get the really nice, like, I think this is the superior D-pad versus the crosshairs. You get the ability to adjust trigger depth. You get a lot of the customizations and so on, but you don't get the paddles. You don't get the case. You don't get the extra bits and pieces. But it was on sale. These were 15% off, $110 on Amazon. So I'm like, screw it. This is perfect for my wife and my daughter when we play. So I bought 2 of these. And now we've got 4 Elites, 2 full Series 2 kits, and 2 cores. 2 for me and my son, or 1 each for me and my son, 1 each for my wife and my daughter. But we haven't had the opportunity. So we need to sit one night for an hour or 2 and play some games, 4-player, and see if we get no controller disconnections, and see if those disconnections are fully tied to the Elites or not. And if the PC will have more longevity. I was contemplating some other options for the computer. I was debating the wall PC again. If there was a way to, like, take it out of the case and get it installed up on the wall behind the TV. But I don't think that's the right call. It's just going to get dirty back there, and I'll never really be able to control the heat. But this might be, I might be hitting the end. I was actually messaging with Brad about this. I don't know. In some ways, I might be hitting the end of my PC gaming days. Just the extra frustrations, the extra integration problems, the lack of reliability, the longer startup times to get the thing woken up and launch games from scratch every time and jump back in. Man, there's no substitute for PC gaming fidelity, but the accessibility is there. And I've been looking for the last 2 days. There's PS5s in stock at I think down the street at our local Target. Unfortunately, they don't have the digital editions, but they have the disc editions in. And I don't know. I think this afternoon I might actually just run by Target and pick up a PS5 and a DualSense Edge controller and see what I think. Yeah, so we'll see where that goes. I really want to play some games, but I don't have the wherewithal to jump through more hoops. And part and parcel with the somber attitude of spending time fighting things versus just enjoying things. And I don't know, the graphic trade-off might be worthwhile, and still, God of War Ragnarok, some of these other Sony games, God of War Ragnarok might come out on PC. It probably will at some point, but maybe late 2024. And then you got the rumors of the PS5 Pro perhaps coming next year, which I think is awesome. I hope they make like a really banger $700 console. So I don't know. I'm really rethinking it. Really rethinking a lot of that stuff. All right, a couple questions here. Rob says, people who turn in their Mad VR for the upgraded Mark II, those units will be sold as certified refurbished at a discount. Yeah, that's true. Given the price, I would still suspect that they will be more, than what you can realistically get a 4000 series Lumigen in your space for. But yeah, I did see that. And hey, if anybody out there is looking at the new Mad VR, I'll plug it again. Audio Advice has them. You can get them from Audio Advice. Use my links, use my referral codes, please. That would be an awesome injection of revenue for the channel. Julius asking, have you thought about adding butt kickers to your seats for future theater chairs? I don't know. I've experienced tactile stuff in a few rooms around Michigan here when we've had some of the meetups and stuff last year. And I think it's cool. I think it's also easy to overdo some of that stuff. I don't think the family would be a big fan of it, particularly my wife. And so, outfitting, if we get a bunch of chairs, maybe two or more, that's kind of been a little bit on hold here these last few weeks anyway, too. I don't know. I don't think the family will like it. So it's almost pointless to spend the money outfitting multiple seats with that kind of stuff. And I don't know that I go through the trouble maybe just to outfit one seat with it. And I think as well, I've got a pretty interesting dynamic in my theater space that multiple folks have pointed out to me. And it's those Arundel subwoofers in conjunction with the way my room is, right? So my room is in a basement, cement slab. There's some underlayment. There's a engineered hickory wood floor. Then there's padding. Then there's carpet. And so with the two subs, sitting on the floor, and then of course the seating, the couch sitting on the floor, the shockwave of the subwoofers, man, it rips across that subfloor and it shakes the couch almost like a tactile effect. And I've had AVS folks come over, and then some other friends and family and whatnot that I've demoed in the theater. And they'll literally ask, like, does this have a shaker in it? It's like, no, there's no shaker. Like, that's just those subs interacting, with the room in that floor. And I think it's awesome. Like, it already feels tactile. And so I don't think that I would. Let's put it this way, right? There's always the opportunity to do something for the content. And so if there was an opportunity to set something up and demo or review it or whatever, that's one thing. But I think right now my state of mind on shakers and tactile would be, I probably wouldn't spend my own money on it. I just don't feel it's necessary for my space. And again, the rest of the family would probably be asking to turn it off anyway. So it would be an utter waste for me in that sense. What I would look to do more, and it could probably be in like maybe a 2024 project space, or who knows, maybe later this year, depending on how things go, would just be adding more subwoofers. And basically, if I had 4 subs in the room, 2 in the front half, 2 in the back half, we sit already biased towards the back. And so even without specifically placing 2 subs in the back directly by the seating, they would be a lot closer to the seating. And so I think we would get like more near field tactile response out of those anyway. So I think I would wait just until then. AVM 90, and then 2 more subs if I stick with the Arundels or whatever it might be. Bodie asking, any fun playing Apple games? I love Apple Arcade. I highly recommend Apple Arcade, especially if your kids are younger. To me, in many ways, like, you can get away with Apple Arcade and not even mess with like a Switch or whatever. My son, we played a lot of Sneaky Sasquatch over the years. There's just stupid fun pick up and play games like Cricket Through the Ages that'll just have you like, little party game, physics based, have you laughing for an hour. So I think Apple's done a fantastic job so far with gaming on the Apple TV and setting up Apple Arcade. And I look forward to seeing them do more. I was Tim Cook, I would have bought Nintendo a while ago. James III says, with WWDC coming a little over a month, any personal hopes, wishes for tvOS 17? Absolutely. So, you know, the one hope is always out there for better audio codec support. And, you know, traditionally that's been like, give us the ability to bitstream, right, True HD and other codecs so that apps like Plex and Infuse can play rips. I don't think Apple has historically cared too much about doing that, but I don't think they've had the codec stack in tvOS to be able to enable that. But Amazon's added it. So, you know, this year, Q1 here, I think it was, the Fire TV Cube now is able to bitstream those codecs. And we still have the pending DTS streamable audio for IMAX enhanced content, which Disney Plus, I think so far has been kind of the one announced to support that. So that could be a difference maker. So if there's an impetus on Apple to support DTS by Disney, you know, and maybe some other apps to be able to do IMAX enhanced, that brings DTS in addition to Dolby codecs to the Apple TV. And then from there, you know, it's one more step forward, I think, for lossless bit streaming. So I think that's one of the main hopes and wishes that remains kind of as always. In general, I'm still hopeful to see some movement in the area of streaming fidelity, streaming quality. I think it's been at WWDC in the past where, you know, the move from iTunes streaming content from 720p to 1080p and then the 1080p to 4K announcements were made. I don't think we're going to 8K or anything like that. But, you know, there's room for high bitrate streaming on the Apple TV from iTunes and that. So I remain hopeful. Right. We've got high fidelity streaming in Apple Music. Was that last year? And so, you know, maybe the video content will follow suit and we'll see some improvements there. They did HDR10 Plus last year. That was really the big feature addition and kind of content upgrade. I know some folks have sounded off in the comments. Soup, actually, I think it was talking about, I believe it was you, about the HDR10 Plus to that Samsung using the Apple TV app, not specifically the Apple TV 4K. But it was cool to see how quickly Apple, you know, when they had HDR10 Plus capability, the content library like changed over. What else could we see? I hope to see more library management, specifically, you know, for either the iTunes Movies app or in the Apple TV Plus app in the library section. You know, I want to be able to organize my content. I want to be able to customize a little bit. I think it would be awesome to see them cater to digital collectors. I just did a video today, or a couple of videos about the Apple TV. Recorded them this morning. Another next one in my series of, like, you know, perfect your use of the Apple TV. And then I did a new streaming face-off on Avatar, The Way of Water. And started kind of in the process of doing that, you know, reacquainted with the idea of, like, man, it would be really nice. I've got 1,500 movies in my iTunes library. I would really, really like to be able to customize this, put things in collections and groups and you know, sort and present and order and stuff like that. So I think there's untapped potential there. Those are some of the big things that I would hope for. Otherwise, I guess the other, actually fourth big one would be better home automation integration and support. So some years back, we actually had a really, really good Apple TV Control 4 IP driver that communicated state. And so the Apple, you know, Control 4 would know when the Apple TV was playing content or not, and you could get triggers, and you could do programming, manage lights, and do some other things, off of those triggers. We lost that. We still have an IP driver right now, but it's not a super intelligent one. It enables the Siri capability of the Halo remote, of course, but it doesn't fully communicate state. So I think there's more opportunity to expand tvOS in the areas of automation, control, and integration. Control 4, Savant. Savant it might be a special case, actually, since they're so Apple focused. They might have a special driver, but Control 4, Crestron, I think, in some of these other systems are not as powerful as they could be with an Apple TV, if they decided to, invest into it and do a couple things, there. I guess I'll do an honorable mention as well, that the more Apple can do to like bring some consistency to the box, and always improve UIs. Like that's the thing. There should always be, not at the risk of like tearing UIs up and making mistakes, which is something like Microsoft kind of tends to do, particularly on the Xbox. If you look at the history of UI changes on the Xbox, they whiplash a little bit too much. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Kaleidescape, has fundamentally had the same UI for a long time, without any significant kind of improvement or evolution or feature additions and stuff like that. Apple's largely been in the middle, but I always hope to see continued UIs, because the UI is like, these devices, they serve really two purposes. Any content device serves two purposes. You navigate to what you want, and then you consume what you want, right? So, and that navigation part is completely the experience, the immersion, the elegance, the convenience of that navigation part is like so important. Using the device and getting to the things that you want to get to. So, as an engineer, that's why I talk a lot about interfaces and like the usability of interfaces. Coffee's cold already. So we'll see what they do. Unfortunately, last year, right, tvOS, it didn't even make the presentation. We still got stuff, some pretty cool things and all that, but it didn't make the stage in the presentation. And it would be a bummer if that happens 2 years in a row. All right. So if you got more questions, comments, discussion topics, fire them out. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're doing in your systems. I want to make one more cool honorable mention with regards to these controllers. Everything's reversed in the camera here. So one of the things that we recently discovered on the Elite controllers only is that in Steam, and I think, I don't know if you specifically have to go through the big picture mode or whatnot, but usually these lights, right, the Xbox controller lights, they light up white. And we've noticed that when you connect a controller to a PC and then you go into Steam, they turn blue. And so my son and I were poking around in the settings, and when you know it, there's actually like a color control option in the controller settings on Steam. And so it's pretty sweet, especially if you've got a bunch of controllers that you can't tell them apart. They look the same. Now we've got 2 white ones and 2 black ones, basically, but you have like full RGB control over this light, which is pretty neat. So on one controller, we made it blue, we made another one green, we made another one red, and we made another one purple, which kind of corresponds to all the colors of the family. Yes, I am that much of an organization nerd that whenever it comes to color coding something for the family, like all of our different calendars and Outlook or whatever, I am blue, my son is green, my wife is red, and my daughter is like purple. So you can do that on these controllers. The only downside that I found was it doesn't actually map the color to the individual controller, which is kind of lame. Like it should know the serial number or a unique identifier for the controller and always give it its color. What it actually does is it applies the colors like in succession. So we set them up in order of like blue, green, red, purple. And so when we go to play a game, you get all the controllers out, you turn them all on. Whichever one Steam sees first is blue, then the next one is green, and so on. So we got to just make sure to turn the controllers on in the same order. But I thought that's really cool. To me, like, talking about UIs and interfaces and customizations and things like that in technology and electronics and devices and all that, to me is, I think, the ultimate in delight, right? I like to be delighted when I use a piece of electronics by, finding something interesting that it does, or, a way to, again, customize it, differentiate it, manage its interface, and all that. So anyway, I thought that was pretty neat. I don't know if that's necessarily worth an independent video, but an honorable mention, kind of nonetheless. So looking for comments here. Again, you got questions. Anybody seen any movies lately? I'm almost contemplating, and he's in the background, so he's probably going to hear this, that if we don't end up with any plans tonight, I almost kind of want to go to the commercial theater and see the Mario Brothers movie. It's already there. It's already there for pre-order in the KUI and in iTunes and all that stuff. But that's a movie that I'm kind of jonesing, I think, to see. I think we're in a little bit of a heyday, I think, of content right now. You look at some of the movies that have just kind of come out that we have available to watch, right? We've got Avatar, we've got the latest Creed, we've got Mario, depending, of course, what you're interested in. We got the new Shazam, we got 65, which kind of has a low Rotten Tomatoes score, at least from a reviewer score, but the audience score, I think more and more, it's interesting. I feel like more and more new movie releases, when you look at the Rotten Tomatoes stuff, which I don't necessarily go consult Rotten Tomatoes too much independently, but Kaleidescape and iTunes and some other, all of the movie interface things that I use tend to pull data from Rotten Tomatoes. And it's interesting to me how more often than not lately, the reviewer scores tend to be low and the audience scores tend to be high. So 65, 35% reviewer score, 65 audience. Even Mario, 58% reviewers, but 96% audience. I think they're killing it right now. Mario is in the box office take, which Shazam: Fury of the Gods, 49% reviewer score, 86% audience score. Dungeons and Dragons, I want to watch that too. That was high. That was actually high in both. Avatar, almost 20% higher in audience score. Creed, pretty high in both, still 10% higher in audience score. I don't know if that says something about us as audiences, that we want to see. We're jonesing for movies. We want to see movies. And maybe we're coming out of like COVID and like less content coming out. Maybe the audiences are grading a bit on a curve. Really excited to see John Wick 4 as well once that finally releases for home viewing. So I definitely got to find some time to get in the theater. Yeah, so Judd, I want to see 65 too. Don't go by the reviewer scores. They know nothing. Yeah. Yeah. Trust your own judgment. Even when something bad is maybe quote unquote bad, it can still be a fun ride. I haven't really watched much of anything since coming back from vacation. It's actually just kind of catching up on wrestling with WrestleMania having occurred, and then still doing a little bit more reading. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. Commercial theater. I don't really want to spend $100 to take the whole family out to a commercial theater. But while that thing is still on all like the Super EMAX, Super IMAX screens and stuff everywhere, Mario, that is, we will see. So Julius is asking, do you keep all your gaming remotes on standing chargers all the time after use? Worried about constant charging? So I do. This is something that I've been wondering about, though, especially with regards to the controller problems that we've been having. And so I feel like I I don't even know what the brand is. I had bought those like little no-name like sled chargers, and I've got like 6 of them. I can charge a dozen controllers at the same time. And so the one shelf in my closet, I've shown it off in past video content, but I've got a handful of those chargers set up. So yeah, I generally always keep the controllers on the chargers. The controller has intelligence, and the charger should have intelligence that having the controller always on the charger doesn't like trickle charge or continue pushing energy into the battery to the point where it would like degrade it or cause a problem. It should, when it reaches a point of being full, the controller should shut down its charging structure or indicate to the charging station to shut down. They're all like USB-C, and they charge through the data port of the controller. But I almost wonder if those chargers and leaving the controllers on them has played a role in the reliability of those series controllers. And the only thing that I can point to, or the main like difference, is that the series controllers, right, they have removable batteries. And I bought the official Microsoft Play and Charge battery packs that I run in those controllers, whereas the Elites, the PlayStation controllers, the Switch controllers have batteries built in. And so I wonder if the battery management system of a controller with an integrated battery is a little more intelligent, and maybe that like, I don't know, we've degraded the batteries or something with the power management system of the other controllers. Correlation is not necessarily causation, but I feel like there's something is afoot. Something is afoot with those Xbox Series controllers, whether it's mine. But then I've also, talking with Taurus and talking with other folks, have also seen mention that other people have had problems with the regular Xbox controllers in the last year, which leads me to think that they broke something in the firmware and they haven't fixed it or returned it yet. But I remain just leaving my controllers on the charging sleds all the time. So Soup says definitely buying 65 and Ant, I presume, yeah, Ant-Man, yeah, Quantum Mania on Apple TV Plus. Get that HDR10 Plus. Yeah, that's cool. I wish the LG supported HDR10 Plus so that I could try it out, or someday make the projector upgrade in the theater either to an NZ laser JVC, or who knows? I wonder if we'll actually see new JVC projectors this fall. This CEDIA this September will be the second year since the NZs came out, and I don't know. I kind of feel like we won't. I feel like we won't see new projectors from JVC this year, which would make it pretty safe and maybe even in like an optimal time to buy an NZ. You're kind of like at the midpoint. They've gotten some pretty significant firmware upgrades. Fixes have been made. The big thing I think out of last CEDIA was the firmware improvements. Although in some ways they were like improving tone mapping and other things like that, which if I pick up the Lumigen, we'll see what happens actually with my next projector choice. Because if I do end up with a video processor in the theater, one of the big selling points of the JVC is the tone mapping. And so if I've got a Lumigen, rest assured the Lumigen will do the tone mapping and the processing, and that could open up my choice a little bit, although we don't really still have a lot of choice in the projector realm. But what it would probably make me do is actually go research Sony a bit and kind of see what's up with the Sony projectors, and is there anything the Sony does connected to a Lumigen that would make it be a contender against the JVC. To me, the JVC is an easy pick, hands down, if you don't have an external processor. But if you have that processor, now you've got some choices. Oh, there he is. There's my dad. Yep. Thanks for mentioning us. Yeah, we'll see. We got a big appointment on Tuesday. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. So you got some questions, you got some topics, fire them out. as I said, I made 4 videos this morning that I'll put out over the next week. A little spoiler alert for the folks hanging out along in the live stream. Again, I've got the Avatar Way of Water streaming comparison. Pretty good numbers. I was pretty happy with the numbers. Some solid numbers and some weaknesses from the apps that you would normally expect to be kind of strong and weak. I thought about buying more of the more recent films on iTunes to try to check them out, but then when I realized that Way of Water was a Movies Anywhere port, figured I would do that one more as a face-off. But I'm really curious to check the second Shazam, check Creed, check 65, and I think there was one other bigger recent movie release that I was interested to see if we had any new streaming technical levels and stuff like that. And I think the next Apple TV, perfect your use of the Apple TV is pretty good. It's all about app use, app management, UI customization, stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. And then I did a couple of maybe streams of consciousness videos that'll go up here in the next 2 weeks as well, talking about kind of evaluating brands, understanding brands in any consumer space, really, because the concept it sets it pretty wide, but kind of for me, of course, focused on the home theater and the hi-fi stuff, and understanding why are brands positioning themselves the way they do, and what does it mean to be premium and luxury and so on, to kind of open some dialogue and talk about in particular Kaleidescape. Why does Kaleidescape put themselves in the market that they put themselves in? And then another one kind of clarifying about owning content. So I think I've got some ongoing, unique discussion takes, technical stuff, kind of the things that, I've tried to specialize the channel into coming up. So John Gonzalez says he was thinking of using 2 IEMA A07 amps for my height speakers. What do you think? I'm not familiar with that brand. IEMA A07. Let's look it up. So this looks like kind of like a smaller Class D. What are we looking at here? As a 1-channel amp for about $60, or just shy of 100. That's with no power supply. I'm not sure about these, quite honestly. I think they're on Audio Science Review. Check that out. I don't know if they have a multi-channel. There's a ×2. Are these 2 channels? Looks like that, yeah, 2-channel amplifier. So you would need a couple of these, unless John, you only do you have 2 heights or 4 heights, John? Let me know. All in all, though, I wouldn't be worried about being picky about what amps you use for your height speakers. They're there for immersion. They're there for kind of ambiance and whatever. They're not as demanding as your front 3. I think there's a lot of virtue, people setting up systems and making their way through system evolutions. People start with receivers and then add external amps for the front 3 or the bass 5, and keep rear surrounds or keep height channels on a receiver. That's a great way to go. So depending on what else you're integrating, you might be better served, if you can, leaving heights on. Obviously you need more amp capacity, but you probably have the processing that you need to cover those. You instead of buying something for the heights, you may be better off taking your fronts off of the amp, and off of your receiver, and if you've got some kind of amp reassignment. But there's a lot of good options for inexpensive Class Ds, 4 channels, Buckeye. I'm gonna forget a bunch of the other names, but yeah, I haven't used the use the IEMAs. Yeah, so I have a Marantz MM7025 for my fronts. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Monoprice has some as well. I think 4-channel Class Ds now. But unfortunately, I've not used an IEMA before, so I can't necessarily comment on those. I don't think you would, for heights though. I don't think it would necessarily be problematic or anything. Marantz MM7025. What is this? 7025. I think that's the receiver. That's the amp. So how many channels are you rocking here? 2 channels. The 7025 is a 2-channel amp. And the 7055 is a 5-channel amp, I think. Yep. Okay. So you got 7 channels of amplification right now. That's probably your bed layer, and then you need 4 more overhead. Yeah, I think you'd be fine just adding something inexpensive to get that to amplify that up overhead. For the simplicity of it, connecting things, plugging stuff in, I might try to look for a 4-channel in one box. But sticking with some simple Class D stuff is definitely a good option too. I've still been considering what I want to do with the amplifiers. I thought about listing my Parasound, at least the A31, maybe trying to get a first NAD. And then when I look at these Class Ds and the Purifies, though, like the NAD looks awesome, but I keep finding myself drawn back to Apollon. I really, really like the looks of the Apollon audio amps. I think they're out of the UK. I think their stuff looks so well engineered. It's clean, classy, and just like it appeals to me as a very organizationally minded engineer, like looking inside their chassis and stuff. And the other thing I really like about that is like I'm just really struggling with the channel counts of the NAD. And you kind of got this problem too going on right now, John. It's like when you add speakers and you end up with different numbers of speakers, getting the right stack of amplifiers and hitting your channel counts can be frustrating, I guess. Right now, I've got the maximum efficiency going right now, right? I got 3 Parasounds, a 3, a 5, and a 5. It's 13 channels, and I'm amplifying 13 speakers in my system, granted between 2 rooms, because I'm driving the ones in the living room as well as the theater, but I'm not wasting anything. I don't have unused amp channels, and I've got it in 3, good sized boxes. And I'm really struggling with NAD's channel counts, because no matter what, I have to buy more and waste. And I was trying to rationalize myself to say like, well, maybe I'll use those other channels in the future. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. That's the problem. So NAD has 2 and 7 channel amps. There's no 3, there's no 4, there's no 5, and there's no 8. It would have solved all my trouble if the M28 would have been an 8-channel amp instead of a 7. But if I buy one M28, I can take out the A31 and I can put my front 3 speakers of the theater on the M28. That'll leave me 4 channels left over. I can run the 2 living room speakers, and I could run the 2 living room subwoofers and further get rid of the triad rack amps. And then I would be in good shape. I would have complete utilization still of all my amplifiers in less boxes. But I would be mixing. I'd have like speakers in the theater running on Class D for the front 3, and then all of the other channels in the speaker or in the room would be running still on the Parasound. So I really need I need a 7 and an 8, like a 7 and an 8-channel amplifier would be really awesome to satisfy all of my needs basically in 2 boxes. But I can't get it. Then if I add a second M28, I've got 14 channels now, but I've got 15 total speakers that I need to amplify, 11 for the theater plus 2 speakers and 2 subs for the living room. I'm one short. I'm one short. So I would be buying another M Masters amp maybe in a 7-channel variety to get one amplifier channel. And maybe if I go to the Utopias down the road, the Utopias can be bi-amped. And if I have Utopias in the living room, I have Utopias in the theater. That's 5 more channels that I would be utilizing, and then I would come close to saturating all those channels. But it just feels like a lot of wasteful money to spend. So instead, like, man, Apollon, you can get the higher end Purify module in a really nice implementation in custom chassis. So I could literally buy like a 4 and an 11 and have exactly what I need for my room. They're more expensive. I've reached out to them. If you're watching, anybody's watching Apollon Audio, and you've got any interest in accommodating the channel for demo review and whatever, that would be great. But they're more expensive than what I can get the NADs for by a decent little clip. So that's a consideration. But I would have exactly what I need: 4 amp channels in its own chassis for the living room, and 11 amp channels for the theater in its own chassis. I can trigger them independently, hook them up just to the stuff that they want to be connected to. But then if I ever go to the Utopias, there's no bi-amping or anything there. I don't think that's a really major loss, though. That's probably one of the least elements of concern, especially if you get the higher power Purify modules. That they've got enough power to command and control those Utopias or the Per-Listens or whatever. But even the Per-Listens are not bi-ampable. So more likely than not, I think for an in-wall or an architectural speaker, I think it's more common to not have bi-amp connections on an in-wall than a tower or a floor stander. So I'm with you, John. I remain stuck thinking about like what's the next amp move, and do I do the? Then I was thinking, well, I could get a 7-channel Masters for all the living room speakers in the fronts, and then I could get an 8-channel, maybe a Monoprice or something, and then move the 8 surround and Atmos speakers for the theater onto an 8-channel Monoprice. That would be more cost effective, but I'm a stickler for wanting to keep everything in brand consistency. So that's holding me back as well. The fun of our hobby, right? First world problems. Soup saying, any FOMO not waiting one more year for the G3? No, I haven't really dug into like the current review status. I know like Brian, FOMO himself and others have been talking a lot about the 2023 model TVs. But the problem for me is I wouldn't go smaller than 83. And if I recall correctly, the 83 G3 is not the same beast as the 77 and smaller size G3s. If I recall correctly, if somebody knows for sure and I'm speaking incorrectly, let me know. But I don't believe the 83 has all of the MLA and like some of the more advanced features. The 83-inch got the shaft this year from a lot of the TV manufacturers. The QD OLEDs stopped at 77. The G3 features cut off a little bit at the 77. So, aside just from content for the channel, to answer the question, I'm not feeling FOMO on having the G2. And we'll see what happens with the TV setup there going forward. Jimmy Brody says, can you go over your G2 settings, which picture mode you use, brightness, and motion settings, and so on? We'll see. We're at an hour and 15. I don't know. Maybe in a future, maybe we can do a dedicated live stream around kind of the living room setup. I can actually sit in there and do that. That would be pretty cool. I'll note that. I'll note that for a future one. I can say my settings are a combination of arriving at kind of what I like, and then, you know, learning from channels like Classy and FOMO and HD TV Test and Artings and those. So Bodie's asking, and you know, so I don't know how much we'll stay on for a little while longer. If you got more questions, topics, comments, whatever, fire them up. And of course, again, I'll say, if you feel so inclined to throw out a super sticker or a super chat, always very much appreciated. And those dollars are pretty much going in the Lumigen Fund at this point. Bodie McBoatface, I saw in one of your videos where you bought your own modems. These aftermarket modems, list providers they work with, you have to call a provider to activate. So you want to make sure that you get a modem that is like on the approved list for your provider. I have WOW here, and that was sometime last year, I think, but WOW publishes a list of approved modems, like Comcast and all the others. They do so as well. As long as you stick to that list, or do, you know, there's other web forums as well where people discuss that a lot. So if you go Googling for web searching for the modem that you're looking at, you know, or in the service provider that you have, or, you know, search for that service provider name and like, you know, best recommended modems, you can, Wirecutter and other sites like that, you can find lists. And then usually, yeah, you will have to call the provider to activate. So, you know, get everything set up, call it in. They'll ask for like some serial numbers and MAC IDs and whatever, some of the technical details about the modem. I think I've always used my own cable modem. I don't think I've ever leased or used the provided one from the service provider. I just like being on my own. That goes for my routers, and all of my networking gear as well. And I've never had trouble activating or using a modem with a given provider, whether it's been Verizon or Comcast or WOW or any of the ones that we've had kind of over the years. Julia's saying, I have the PS5 DualSense Edge remote, and if you like the Elite 2, yeah, I think it's really cool that Sony made that controller. I love the feel of these things. The rubberized, or whatever they are, like the grip, the bits and pieces, the parts, being able to use like a half pull trigger. I think these are just fantastic. I am still a little bit old school in that I try to use the paddles, but when I get kind of automatically playing a game, I have to cognizantly like start to tell myself to use the paddles. It doesn't happen naturally, just because I think I was just trained that way. older man brain. And the idea of using paddles is something that I've never kind of fully, but in the games where like a paddle is very, very useful, I will use maybe just that one. But using them all the time, I don't. But anyway, I think it's really cool that Sony came out with the DualSense Edge, and I would like to try it. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. This afternoon, I might be making a stop by Target, pick up that PS5, pick up a DualSense Edge. I could review it for channel content, whatever. And, you know, if I decide that, after seeing it again and experiencing it again, that I'm still okay paying some of the convenience and frustrations and whatever to game on the PC, you know, so be it. Target has 30-day returns, and so it could go back. Big thing for me is the game fidelity and the way stuff looks and plays, especially with a 4090 that can crank through so many games. But if I never play them, who cares how good it looks? If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there, you don't hear it. If a video game is never played, who cares how good it looks? And I keep going back to my experience when the the most gaming that I've done in those last 2-ish years was when these new consoles came out. PS5 came out, and man, I 100% it. I platinumed Spider-Man. I think I don't remember if I platinumed Miles. I think I'm one trophy short of platinuming Miles, and the problem was, I think in order to platinum Miles, you had to play a complete new game plus, and it's like, okay, I'll tinker around in the new game plus, but I'm probably not playing the whole game again. So that one was a bummer there. But we platinumed that. I forget the game that came with the PS5, with the little robot thing using all the DualSense stuff. And for that stretch of time, whatever it was, that first like 4 months, 6 months when the PS5 came out, I was really loving gaming then. And then I got into my own head about the fidelity of it and the PC and the idea that these PlayStation games are going to start coming out on PC. And, then I end up with selling my consoles, and I've got this super mega powered computer, and I find that we don't use it as much because of some of the accessibility and some of the frustration factors. And when we sit down to play a game together as a family, and then the controllers are disconnecting and things aren't working right, it's a pain. So we shut it off. Or on a family pick night, my son wants to pick games, and it's like, well, the PC's not ready. Can't pick video games. The PC's not ready. And that's just kind of lame. So I think there really is something to be said about, the accessibility, the turn on and play speed, latency of being into a game on a console. I just wish we had like $700-800 consoles that were much more powerful than what we still have, even in this generation. So I'm jonesing for a PS5 Pro, or an Xbox Series S. I think if I reconsider going back to console, it's going to be PS5 for sure, just because it's the Sony games that I want to play the most. God of War. I never played The Last of Us 2. That's not out on PC. And if these games are going to take a year or a year and a half to come out, I would like to catch up on the Sony exclusives, and then be ready so that when Spider-Man 2 releases, or Wolverine, or The Last of Us 3, I can just jump into these games and play them as they're brand new, and not be waiting. I think there's a lot of virtue to that. And as I said, with the kind of the somber tone of looking at my age, and what it would mean if, like, I'm gonna go dark here, but if I only make it to 70, man, I only got like 23 years. So waiting a year or two to play a game, it could be 10% of my life. So there's something to be said about convenience and actually enjoying things rather than the process of setting yourself up to enjoy things. I've wasted a lot of time in my home theater and AV journey setting things up to enjoy things rather than just enjoying things. So trying to take some life lessons away from that. A couple shout outs. Sammy Prescott, happy Saturday. Same to you, my friend. Oprah Winfrey, another regular, says, yeah, you need those paddles for Call of Duty. I haven't been much of a competitive shooter gamer. My gaming interests have kind of been relegated to the Sony walking simulators. Action games, first person, single player stuff is what I would play for myself. And then the family games, the goofy fun family games, the moving outs, the Heave Ho and Overcooked and stuff like that. I got busy in the Destiny Crucible, though. I've been out of Destiny for a while, but that was the most competitive gaming that I did. But I definitely try to use that. I was getting used to the paddles there. Like you say, run and gun all day. Yep. That's where they're definitely the most powerful. Being able to aim and jump and maneuver off of paddles and keeping thumbs on the aim stick. I was getting pretty good at that for a spell there in Destiny on the Crucible, on PC no less. using a controller. Yeah, I'm a better gamer on PC with a controller than I am with keyboard and mouse. My performance ratios actually improved going from console to PC because of, I think, the latency and frame rates and all of that stuff, despite being a controller player competing against keyboard jockeys. Jason Marin, welcome, says, I'm new to Infuse. Wondering if you buy movies on iTunes, can you view them in Infuse? I found out how to do video files on my Mac, but could add iTunes movies. Thanks for your help. So no, not really. And I wouldn't even recommend this, even worrying about that, actually. So treat them as separate animals and separate them, right? So Infuse is about playing your local ripped or otherwise, accessible media files. And if you're going to buy stuff on iTunes, play it in the iTunes movies or TV shows apps, where you will be guaranteed to get, pretty much the best, on average and overall, the best streaming that you can get from any service provider. It was streaming delivery anyway. The problem with trying to download is that Apple will serve higher quality content in the stream than they let you download. Even if you have a Mac and you have like the iTunes app and stuff like that, you can't download and take that file and serve it locally anymore in a really meaningful way. I think we lost that capability back when things were still HD and 1080p. So you really don't. I don't think it's really a use case anymore to buy like digital content from Apple and download and store it and serve it or whatever. If you're going to consume it, just let it stream, let it play to the apps that it's going to play to. And the only time that I would download iTunes content is if I was going on a trip and I was taking a device with me and I wanted to watch a movie or a TV show, on a phone or an iPad or something on a plane at an airport, whatever, something along those lines. So yeah, stick to, couldn't add iTunes. Yep. Infuse is for files, and iTunes itself is for streams, and kind of leave them separate. Yeah. Julius, thanks a lot. Appreciate hearing about my life is almost over. It's funny. Yeah. We were hanging out with friends a little while back, and I was like the total Debbie Downer in the conversation, because we were talking about cars, and these friends of ours, they've been debating potential car purchases. Let's say the couple is at odds over what the next vehicle should be, and making the choice of what they want to buy. And they kind of buy and use their cars the same way that we do, which is to say that they don't turn their cars over, constantly. They kind of buy and drive them and use them for a while. So if you figure a decent new car purchase gets you maybe 10 years before, you would be ready to flip it and get rid of the next thing. We're on 12 years. We've got a 2011 Explorer with 105,000 miles or something on it only. So we're milking that thing. And then of course we've had the Tesla for not quite 2 years now, but assuming that at our age, mid 40s, closing in on 50, you keep a car for 10 years and, you make it to mid 80s and hope that you're still driving then as well, right? You're only going to have 4 more cars in your life. So make your decisions, choose wisely, as they say in Indiana Jones, right? You got 4 more, that's it. 10-year purchase, 4 cars. And the last one you own is, who knows if you're going to really be able to enjoy it. That's probably not the Lambo or the super sports car or whatever. You're probably just getting from point A to point B, not getting in an accident. So choose wisely. Somber tones today. Sammy says, I think it depends on how you game. Yeah, how invested you are. In my case, certain games are only PC. Yep. Others more casual. I'll play on console. Yeah, in my home theater journey, I've debated and I've swung wildly back and forth between choices in a couple of specific realms of this hobby, and gaming has absolutely been one of them. As I wear my friends' ears off over the years with my indecision and paradox of choice between the merits of consoles and the merits of PC, and the fact that these things are redundant, and I don't want to own all of them, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I don't know. Grass, it's like a grass is always greener too. The more you use something, the more the faults you find with it, and then start thinking that maybe the other thing I would have been better off with the other thing. But then you switch back to the other thing, and then after a little while, you find the faults. You find the faults there as well. But I have to admit, yeah, I don't. It's just all those pros and cons. Like, particularly with my mood lately and my thinking lately, it's like the PC, the elements of the PC, the cons of the PC are wearing on me more. And again, if I never play the game, who cares how good it looks, or or if it looks marginally better on the PC or not. But I guarantee my failing will be if I drop my kid off at his robotics this afternoon, and on the way home, I find myself navigating to Target, and I come home with a PlayStation 5. Yeah, we'll see. I'll end up hooking that thing up, and I'll download a couple games and reacquaint myself with the graphical presentation, and maybe going right back to Target again. But I don't know. We will see. Jason Marin says, I'm new to your channel as well. Love your content and getting excited to start building my digital movie library. Awesome. What's your setup, Jason? Like, what kind of home theater do you have, and what are you debating? I love the discussion about physical versus digital and where things are going, and just the evolution of content and technology and all that stuff. So you hear me definitely talk about that stuff quite a bit. Yeah, the new God of War is epic. Best game I played. Wow, that's lofty. They just had the state of play this week as well for Final Fantasy 16. I haven't played a Final Fantasy in many iterations. Probably not. Maybe 9 might have even been the last one that I've played. But 16 is looking pretty solid. And there you go again, like 16. A lot of conjecture about the console to PC roadmap that game's going to take. Way back in whatever presentation that was on the slide, it said coming soon to PC or whatever, but then they reneged on that, or backtracked on that. And then now this week they're saying, well, Sony's got some release window exclusiveness for the PlayStation, but the news was saying a little bit this week that even beyond the exclusivity or the release exclusivity window, it's going to take longer to get Final Fantasy 16 on PC, just by virtue of the fact of how big of a game it is and all that. And there's always a chance that the PC releases come out initially like trash. Last of Us 2 hasn't been looking so hot, so same thing. God of War Ragnarok, I could just go buy that PlayStation. I haven't finished God of War 2018. So I need to blast through that game and get through Ragnarok. But if I were playing them on a PlayStation, of the ability to sit down, fire it up, be right into the game, play an hour, shut it down, and move on to the next thing that I need to take care of, I would actually play it. Whereas on the PC, I know I've got to wake it up. I've got to make sure the controller's synced. I got to navigate through Steam. I got to launch the game from scratch. Always. I got to reload my save. And like, that time alone, it's just easier for me to like grab my iPad and read a comic book or something. So if you never play it, who cares what it looks like or how extra better it might be. And I don't know, we'll see. I think Sony's going to remain committed to the console space for a while to come, and we're going to see, despite the push on PC, we're going to see some Still some delay, some lagginess in the PC releases and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know that I want to wait a year. I'd like to get caught up and play the games right away. Sammy's saying, have you downloaded Meganon K? Bought it on a recent sale. I downloaded the main and a supplement. I think the supplement is the unrated. Curious if you can delete the main and keep the supplement. So I haven't bought that movie. But unfortunately, K is a little screwy with regards to how they treat supplements and extended editions and stuff like that. You know, a lot of times the supplements or the special features and whatever come with the HD package. You have to download the HD package, not the 4K package, which means you actually have to store the HD movie on your Terra along with the 4K copy of the movie, and you're just kind of wasting space, which is a bummer. I was just noticing this specifically. Yeah, it's because with Avatar, where to go? So I'm looking in the, oh, that's my movies. I didn't buy it yet. So like if you go to the case store and you look at Avatar and you say show download size, 4K HDR size is 103 gigabytes. Blu-ray quality is 125 gigabytes. And so this movie has a lot of special features, and they're available on K, which is cool early. But special features inside Pandora's box, a bunch of those, which are kind of like making of more from Pandora's box. So there's, I don't even know what, 15 different special features here. So those are pumping up. So if you want to download this movie to your K storage and you want to watch the special features with it, that's 230 gig of space, and if you're only looking at like a 6 terabyte system storage, that's a lot for one movie. But to answer your question more deliberately, if you go on your K, not to the store, but you go to the IP address of your system. I'm accessing mine right now. It's waking up here. I don't want to screen share it just in case something more sensitive is shown, but go to the IP address of your system, go to the movies tab. You'll see movies history in settings. And on some movies, like here we go. If there's multiple packages, like a 4K package and an HD package, or in some cases, like a special edition of a movie, and K recognizes it as a different package, there'll be a little arrow next to the movie title. Actually, I think I can show this off. All right, so let's do this. Close some browser windows, and I'm going to put it up like this. Hold on. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so sharing the screen here. I won't be able to see comments, but if I go over here, right? So here's the movie list. I'm on the IP address of my K system. I'm on movies, and see how like Black Adam, Black Panther, they have these expansion arrows. If you've got different packages of a movie, you'll see that. In this case, it's showing 4K HDR and then the Blu-ray disc, because these are titles that I used for my disc to digital explanation. And I don't think I have any where I've downloaded the HD and the 4K. But if you want to keep a specific version of something, and you may have the ability to discretely manage it, then this is the way you would do that. So hit the arrow, and if a given piece of content has the ability to delete one and leave the other, you would be able to check it and then go all the way to the bottom, and there it'll enable this delete option here. If I just tick this, right, it'll enable this delete option right here, and you could potentially then be able to delete stuff that that you don't need anymore, that you wouldn't want to store. So I would say, go look at that movie on the IP movie management screen of your system, and you may be able to blow out one or the others. I did want to show this. So as much as I'm talking about maybe making the switch back to console, I think if I'm going to stay PC, this is my future case for leaving the computer on top of the rack. Man, I was looking at other options when I was thinking about leaving it upstairs. But as we've talked about, I don't want to do that. But man, I don't know if anybody's seen this before. This is the Thermaltake Tower. So it's pretty interesting, actually. It mounts your motherboard sideways, basically. So all your I/O is facing up. I just think this thing is beautiful. And it's one of the few computer cases that like the wires come out the back, right? Most of the time, computer cases are long. And if you put them sideways, like how I have it up on my rack right now, all of the cables come out the side, not nice out of the back. So I think this thing would just be amazing standing up on top of the rack. It's taller. It would put the wireless receivers, a little bit closer, even up to the ceiling, because this is like 24 inches tall or something like that versus a normal computer case. I want to say is more like 17 or 18. But if I do decide to keep the PC, I'm gonna do a little transplant. I can keep all my current parts and everything like that, but pick up one of these guys, fill it up with some fans, probably some Noctua fans, and then set this beauty, boom, right up on top of the rack downstairs. So that's my potentially next move. All right, we'll probably wrap up here in a few. If you've got any additional questions, comments, or discussion topics that you want to hit, let me know. Jason's saying, this is your system there. I got a 5.2.2 Golden Ear speaker setup. Awesome. Golden Ear is a great brand. A friend of mine has Triton towers that I recommended him. He's basically got just a 2.2 setup, counting the speakers and the integrated subwoofers. Really likes them. Like your receiver, PS5, Apple TV, 65-inch Samsung 4K TV with Control 4. Cool. Setup, calibrated, program myself in the living room. Awesome. You're on your way. So Sammy's saying, yeah, Kay sees it as two separate movies that were two separate HDR downloads. So So there you go. You should be able then to tick and delete the one and try it, and then you'll still be able to access the movie and play it in the KUI. If it doesn't work, then you can always re-download it again. So kind of nothing lost, but that should work out for you. So Randleton says, I would get the PS5 and maintain the PC as you can. No reason to worry about fidelity when you're mostly playing family games. Yep. Always can go back and replay games on PC later. Yeah, it's just a matter of the. Actually, now I think they just came out with this last week. Some of the numbers on electronics is interesting. I thought like the PC shipments are PC sales numbers now. Like I think what were reported for the quarter or whatever were way down. Even Apple Mac shipments were way down. So people aren't buying computers. If I flip back, rubber band back, and sell that computer, I'm probably doing it at a bad time, where I would lose a lot of, unfortunately, lose a lot of value in it, which is kind of a bummer. But at the same time, man, I could buy two PS5 digital editions. So here's the whole get up that I was thinking if I were to flip this back. So the reality is, one of the other challenges of the computer is that I mostly do game in the living room, because there's really no substitute for gaming on the LG. The experience of gaming on the LG, latency, 120 hertz, VRR, and all that kind of stuff is a significant improvement over gaming on the projector. However, sometimes it is nice to just go downstairs, pull up a game, and despite 60 hertz maximum refresh rate, despite no VRR, playing on the big screen. Right, a single player, immersive, walking simulator, whatever, playing that in the theater on the big screen with all the big boisterous surround sound and all that, or being able to play at night and crank up the volume a little bit, which I really can't do in the living room, for a single player immersive game and stuff like that. The PC really makes that hard, because there's no way I'm building two of them, first of all. And you can do multiple HDMIs to different rooms, but then the two displays have different capabilities, and so there's management involved. Really, what it boils down to is there's management involved. So I kind of relegate the computer to only being connected in the living room, but again, it's where the more kind of superior gaming experience is because of the display, regardless. But if I were to jettison that computer for less money, this is the funny part of it is, right? For less money than the 4090 cost me, basically, I could get a PS5 digital for the living room, hook it up in the living room. I'd put it right behind the TV, and that hide it mount, that hide it mount is still attached to the wall behind the flat panel. Fits the PlayStation perfect. That's how I used it for a long time. That living room PlayStation would be connected directly to the G2, take advantage of VRR 120 hertz modes and all that sort of stuff. And then, so that's $400. I could buy a second digital PlayStation 5, put it downstairs, leave that one configured and operational for the theater in the modes and the video capabilities and stuff and the audio settings and whatever of the theater. So that's two systems. The one in the living room, I would probably put an extra SSD in it. So at least a 2, if not maybe a 4 terabyte SSD, because that's going to be the family gaming focus, and I'll probably want to have more games installed and readily available to play on it. The one that's downstairs, I would probably just keep a few games on it, and they would be the games that I would mostly be playing single player in the theater myself. So I don't think I need expansion or extra storage space in the one that would be downstairs. So 2 PlayStations, an expansion SSD. I would buy 2 DualSense Edge controllers, right? And so what I would want is 4 controllers synced to that PlayStation in the living room, but only two would be plenty for the theater. I would leave those controllers in the theater so that I could just walk down there, grab the controller. It's already synced to that system and I could play. And I would want to play on a DualSense Edge. So I would have one for each zone. And then I'd have the controller that came with the PlayStation for the theater plus the DualSense. So if we do ever just want to play a 2-player game downstairs, we could do it. And then I would buy 2 extra controllers, other colors, whatever, blue, purple, red, something like that. Not edges, but just regular DualSenses. And leave those 4 controllers, the one that came with it, the Edge, and the 2 colored ones, the 2 brightly colored ones in the closet, accessible there to the living room. All of that could be procured for less than the cost of a PC GPU, which is just pretty wild. The relative cost of this stuff. And then 2024 hopefully rolls around. PS5 Pro hopefully comes out and it's awesome, easy, no-brainer upgrade. More than likely the SSD that was bought to go in this PS5 would be able to go into the Pro. I suspect they'll keep the same type of standard M.2 expansion capability. No controller mishaps. Everything is hidden away and synced, and I'd be good to go. So and I would be able to walk into any zone, and just sit down and play a game and recall it. And I think it works pretty well too. I know Microsoft's a little bit better in the realm of having multiple consoles in your space, but you can still have one PlayStation be the home system, and then anybody else in the house can access their profiles and access the games and all that stuff. And then the second PlayStation would be, when I go to use it, I would log into it and I could access my games and all that stuff there. PlayStation Plus, the saves sync, and you can jump back in and all of that. So I don't know, just a lot of virtues to that platform in that way. So Sammy's saying, and let me know, sound off in the comments here, let's have a discussion. What do you do with your gaming? What do you choose? Why do you choose it? Stuff like that. What I do is complete waste. But in the living room with the G2, Series X and PS5 upstairs, in the theater, PC. Oh, wait, hold on. I think I'm reading this wrong. What I do is a complete waste. In the living room. G2 with Series X and PS5 upstairs. In theater, PC, or upstairs in theater. PC on 48C1, that also runs to rack. Series 5 PS5 that routes to another LG in motor. Yeah, so you got some redundancy going on. That's which is fine. You know, I ran it for a long time back in the Xbox One X generation. This is kind of how I had things when I would say I gamed more on the Xbox than the PlayStation, but I had a One X for the living room and I had a One X for the theater. And it just made it simple. You walk into a given room, you fire up the console, and so on. I think there's two other actual side effects of doing this that that I think have some merit as well over the PC, which is yeah, for right now we play a lot of same screen family games, but you know, it might not be too long before having the ability to play on two screens, co-op kind of stuff, would be nice. Particularly me and my son, as we tend to be the more gamers of the family versus the ladies. But I'm not building another gaming PC, so but it's easy to have a couple of PlayStations to be able to log in on and play. So that would give us the ability. One of us could play in the living room, one could play in the theater, and we could, you know, combo up and stuff that way. So there's a future benefit there. The other one is I would like to play some Street Fighter 6 coming up, and yeah, it's coming to PC, but now that was one of the virtues of actually having the PC in the living room is a fight stick, being able to wire, because that's only wired. I can do it, but it's not the most reliable. I can get a fight stick out and I have USB to Cat5 adapters, and I have a couple of extra Cat5 runs in the living room, kind of over in the corner there under that blue ball. We've still got the birthday month decorations up. There's a couple of Cat5 drops in the wall right there. So those go down to the rack, and I can go through the USB to Cat5 adapters, and I can plug in to the PC that way. And it works, but you get into challenges of like power. You know, you're powering the controller. That can sometimes be flaky and whatever. So it's better to just plug in like natively with USB, and you're not getting latency because of whatever conversions and stuff that the Cat5 adapters might be doing. But if I do get into some fighting games again, and I want to do it with a fight stick, I could do that better, I think, on console, because again, that PlayStation 5 would be right behind the TV right here. There's a medium size rack hide it mount, perfectly sized for a PlayStation, and you know, I could have a long enough USB cable to play with a fight stick in my lap or on the table in front of me there. So some virtues. The other thing I'd like to do, I probably won't pursue this probably this year, but watching all about TTK's arcade coverage is I would love to have a console arcade fighter, Chulix, Vulix type cabinet, and put something in there, right, that I could actually sit and play fighting games that way. So that if I were to do that, that would negate playing a fighting game in the living room with a fight stick, because I would just do it in the cab. But it would be very easy to buy a Chulix and put a PS5 in it as well, and play all the fighting games and be able to play online very easily that way. So Sammy's saying more of a waste because I don't have much time to game. Yeah, ditto. But Final Fantasy 16 and D4 Diablo 4 will change that, hopefully. I like your zone setup better than what I'm doing. And it's just about kind of focusing, right? So it sounds like you have a couple different zones that you may game in, you know, and maybe isolating a little bit. Again, to me, like, it's all about doing stuff is all about the accessibility of it. And this is why I've like given up on and off again on like ripping content and kind of adopted Kaleidescape. Is just, it's time. And you know, just being able to want to enjoy the content and not jump through hoops to get it or access it, because this time is a slipping away. All right, I think we'll cut it off here. Not at least at the 2 hour mark. Still waiting for the ladies to come home. and get on to some other things today. Kiddo's got robotics, and might have to go to Target. So we got about 5 minutes till to the 2-hour mark. Any last comments, thoughts, questions? I appreciate everybody coming out and hanging out. Again, these weekend sessions, I think we tend to get more people on the Wednesday nights. It's probably now a hard time, and things might change as we get more into summer with streaming as well, just because it's getting nicer outside and want to actually get out and do things. I need to get super focused back on fitness in the gym. I've quite honestly given up a lot of gym time in the last year and a half to focus on this endeavor, and I need to snap that back. But I had 2 really good lifts this week. I'm feeling good, pretty sore. I want to get out walking. I want to get out biking this summer and all that stuff. So yeah, Sammy's saying mainly game in the living room, very rarely in the theater, except from testing for reviews. Yeah, with exception if I'm playing on PC. So to me, like, I don't play anything that's PC centric. At least I haven't in a long time. I spent a lot of time, played World of Warcraft over the years and played PC centric stuff, but not anymore. And so I don't play anything that needs a keyboard and mouse. I don't play anything that needs a desk setup. I want to play in the theater, in the living room, sitting on the couch. As it is, I sit in my office space enough that I don't want to sit there for entertainment. Between sitting there for 2 jobs is plenty. I don't want to sit there for entertainment. So the living rooms. So I use the PC entirely as a console-ified PC. And unfortunately, even as I'm contemplating moving on from it, the console-ification of PC is better than it's ever been. Like the Steam Deck UI is just absolutely fantastic for playing games until something doesn't work right or needs a reboot or whatever. But yeah, it's really good. All right. Anything else? Any other questions, comments, thoughts? So coming up, content-wise, I've got 4 videos to edit this weekend. I've got nothing scheduled for the coming week yet, but 2 of the videos that I made. I think in one of the community posts, I talked about doing the Apple TV settings stuff on Wednesdays. I think I might renege on that a little bit and just, we'll see. But mostly, I want to stay committed to two edited, produced videos a week, and then supplement it with live streams and then throw some shorts out there here and there. 3 videos a week is feeling like a lot, like more than I might be able to fully commit to. And again, I need to get myself to the gym and do some other things as well. So minimum of 2 Mondays and Fridays, hopefully live stream kick up on some of these Wednesdays, and then on these more intimate, smaller group hangouts on the weekends, and we'll see where things go from there. But let me know what you want to see. Oh, the one thing we didn't talk about, actually, we didn't talk about the poll, the channel poll. Where is it? In terms of like, I did put a poll out. It's still in the community tab if anybody wants to vote. What have you liked in terms of, what's been on the channel recently? It's been interesting. We got 100. Let me refresh this actually. 124 votes, and man, this stuff is like split dead on. So 28% Apple TV how-to and usability. I got more of that coming. 28% Lumigen and advanced home theater setup. I thought that was interesting because like the Apple TV stuff I think represents maybe a little bit more content for mainstream, and then the Lumigen is like laser focused, super enthusiast, hardcore home theater stuff. So for those both to be at 28% is an interesting result, because it means that I guess the channel can straddle, hopefully growing with some mainstream stuff, but then still really being super tech, laser focused in some areas as well. And then the automation, remote control system stuff, which people seem to be really liking, was next, 19%. Kaleidescape 15, and then the live streams actually was the lowest one, 10%. So I guess if you're here, you really like the live streams, but the larger certainly the larger portion of any channel's audience doesn't attend the lives. The lives are really for kind of the dedicated community and stuff like that, which is fine. I think, you look at numbers on any channel doing lives, that might have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of subs, hundreds of thousands of subs, and they might have a few hundred people on a live stream, which, I guess that it's harder to commit to watching live stream content than not. But YouTube is putting everything out there, man. YouTube wants to own the video space, short form, medium form, long form, podcasts. They're giving us everything on these channels now. And I think in order to grow YouTube brands and grow communities and all that stuff, the best thing you can do is take advantage of all of them. All right, another question here. PK Hamu 2005. That's a new name I don't think I've seen before. Welcome. Any idea whether pet dog ears are more sensitive to ported or sealed subs? Saw Subwoofer 101 once saying that his dogs were more sensitive to sealed sub pressure. Interesting. Well, I mean, the big difference, or a big difference between a sealed and a ported sub, is that a sealed sub doesn't kind of have the fall off that a ported does, right? Ported digs in a way that's a little bit different than a sealed, but a sealed doesn't have like a steeper fall off as you hit like the limits of the port and stuff like that. So I could see that, I suppose, if a dog, I don't know dog physiology, I guess. But if the animal were more sensitive to the lowest of the low frequencies, a sealed sub might be able to hold more volume into some of the deeper regions, whereas a ported might fall off. So that's the best I think I can answer. I can answer that one. Interesting question though. All right, I'll do one more showcase. So something that I bought that I haven't owned in a long time. I bought my first individual comic book. So we're not going to make a comic book YouTube channel here, but that's what I've been consuming the most of, is basically comic collecting YouTube. So I think I've got some of my collection focus set. I think I'm going to focus. I want to get some Batman, get the family motivated to set up my office, have a nice display. So hopefully what you'll see coming to the channel pretty soon is I'll actually be able to sit and record and broadcast from in there. And instead of kids' desks heaped with stuff, might actually have a bit of a nice backdrop. But still, it was nice being able to sit up here in the kitchen today versus kind of being in the basement. But so if you're a comic collector, let me know. Superhero fan, comic book reader, any of that stuff. I'm getting the urge to put some resources that way. I'd like to get some old Golden Age, Silver Age stuff. All right, last question. John Gonzalez, Apple TV versus Dune. I think they serve different purposes to some extent. Apple TV is your streaming box. Dune is your local media file-based playback box. And so if you have a use case for how you consume content that you want a really great streaming delivery, and you want fully featured local file playback, then you would potentially want both of those devices. So we talk about Infuse on the channel quite a bit. To me, I wouldn't buy a Dune or as a PD or any of those as Zedu personally, because for as much as I would play a local file, Infuse on an Apple TV fulfills my needs. Now, the super diehards will say, well, you don't get bitstream immersive audio. To that I say, well, maybe not yet. We don't have it today, but maybe someday we will. But I'm okay giving that up for not having another box and having to set up another like content metadata library and all of that. To me, Infuse is fantastic. So if you don't have immersive audio in your system, or you're not planning to add Atmos speakers or overhead speakers or anything like that, then you're not giving up anything over a Dune to use the Infuse app on Apple TV, in which case I would say you have no need for another player. Just use Infuse. If you're okay giving up immersive audio output, you are still getting lossless audio output, but you're not getting the immersive audio discrete output, then you would want to add a Dune or as a PD. or a Shield if you're going the Plex route, something like that. I might have a preference towards Zapiti over Dune, but I've had them both, or had them kind of all over the years. So yeah, so he already actually says he already thinking of getting Apple TV. I already have the Dune, but I wouldn't use the Dune to stream anything. Dune and some of those boxes have like some level of Android support, but the apps, to me, like they're second fiddle to the purpose of the box, and are going to come with limitations and compromises and lack of capabilities and whatever. So, get your Apple TV if you're going to use it for a couple of things. You're going to use it for Apple services, and I use it for all these. This is why I'm a big proponent of the Apple TV. I'm all Apple ecosystem. I'm sitting here on a Mac. I've got an iPhone. I've got an iPad. I subscribe to the Apple monthly service thing, which gives us a whole bunch of stuff, news, music, arcade, and so on. Got a bunch of stuff in iCloud, all of that sort of things. So Apple ecosystem user, you're going to take advantage of AirPlay and other things like that. You've cut the cord and you're using DirecTV Stream, you're using YouTube TV, Hulu Live, whatever, you want a good box to do that on. I think Apple TV is premier for that. And then streaming, HBO Max, Disney Plus, Netflix, Paramount Plus, Peacock, right? Line them all up. By and large, Apple TV is the best place to consume that kind of stuff. The only one that's a standout that kind of is a little terrible is Amazon, but in my opinion, Amazon is not the best overall. And the Amazon Prime original stuff on Apple TV is fine, but if you were going to stream any other content and treat Amazon as a primary, then Apple TV isn't the best. But I wouldn't do any of that stuff on a Dune. So kind of depends on what else you might have going there. So you do have a lot of Atmos encoded media on my NAS. So that would be the reason to keep the Dune. Yeah, PC with Windows, iPhone, iPad for tablets. So there's still some nice potential functionality crossover that you might take advantage of for the Apple TV there. But it really just boils down to where you're consuming content with. If you're not subscribing to streaming services and you're good, maybe if you've got a regular cable box or something like that, or you don't have cable, you just watch movies that you rip and watch, less potentially of a reason. But to me, if I were to relegate myself down to a single video source for my theater in both of these spaces, which I've talked about in prior content, Apple TV is my box. It's the one that just does everything. And I have to say, I've been vocal about it as well. As much as I love it, and streaming is really good, and I've tried to convince myself at multiple points that like all I need is an Apple TV and a PlayStation. I don't need a PC. I don't even necessarily need a Kaleidescape. I would be happy with just those two devices and stop having redundancy and double buying content and all that stuff. So it doesn't mean I'm ready to pull and sell the Kaleidescape, but my quest for minimalization and simplicity continues. We'll see where it goes. But 2:08, we're going to call it here and get on to the family stuff and check in with the little guy. So thanks everybody for coming out. I really appreciate it. Fun hangout as always. Great discussion. Awesome questions. More content coming. I got some videos to edit probably tomorrow morning. This is the second job, man. Every weekend, Saturday, Sunday morning, I'm up and working on this stuff. So super appreciate it. I appreciate everybody's support as well. If you're willing, there's lots of different ways to support the channel. Check out those affiliate links. I got a community post coming tomorrow, but I saw the message come. Audio Advice is actually having a spring sale. It started today. Kaleidescape, Revel, Sony, SVS. There's a whole bunch of brands marked down. Use my referral code. Use my links, please. That's like the easiest, simplest, best way to support the channel. If you're buying a bunch of awesome home theater gear and you can get great service and a good price from them, I can get a pretty decent kickback and get this Lumigen installed and move on to some pretty cool content, which according to the poll, you all want to see it. You all want to see the Lumigen content. So I appreciate anybody's help in getting a hold of one. Thanks so much. Have an awesome weekend. And weather is looking awesome here in Michigan. I hope you're in a great spot too. Although we're going to go from 80 to 50 in rain apparently on Monday. It's going to snow again. So that's Michigan for you. All right. Thanks so much. Super awesome weekends, everybody. Give me some thoughts and prayers for the family coming up these next couple days. And I will see you all soon. Hopefully maybe Wednesday night. Thanks so much.